Linda, I'm so happy to meet you in person. And I know you flew Sling Aircraft from South Africa to Oshkosh. So how did you get introduced to aviation?
Well, I always wanted to fly since I was a kid, like a superhero, like Snoopy and the Sopwith Camel. So I expressed an interest at a young age and the desire to fly, but I had nobody in my family, nobody that I knew that was pilots. So when I got to high school and said I wanted to be a pilot, they said, "Sorry, dearie, you can't do that because you're a girl and guys become pilots." And I like to say they were wrong for the right reasons, because back in the 70s, most of the airline pilots, and that's what we think of, there are many types of pilots, but we often think about airlines. Most airline pilots were coming out of the military, and while there were women flying for the military, there were not many of them, and they were not allowed to fly fighter jets, which got more publicity, so people just didn't know at the time. The first major women to fly for major airlines was in 1973. So anyway, I believed them. They told me I couldn't do it because of my gender, and I believed them. And off I went to college, did my undergraduate. I was getting my master's degree in finance, and my professor mentioned he had a little airplane at the local airport. Professor Mandel, shout out to him. And I was like, "What? Little plane, local airport?" I didn't know such a thing existed. So I ran down to the local airport, flew my plane for the first time in 1985, and I've been flying ever since.
I know you were an airline captain. Why do you choose Sling Aircraft?
While I was a private pilot, before I started flying commercially, I bought a Cessna T210, which is a high-wing, six-place, very capable aircraft. And I had a wonderful time, and I became a real devotee of the high-wing design for so many reasons. You can look down, you have an umbrella, it's cool, you have shade, stability. My husband gets a little airsick. So I really started to like the high wing after having owned the 210 for about 20 years. But when I became an airline captain, I found I really wasn't flying the 210 as much as I was using my what I call my magic carpet, my ID badge, to travel all over the world and go on exciting adventures in India, Nepal, and Europe, and Asia, and whatnot. So I decided to sell the 210 and start looking for my retirement aircraft. And I had about 20 years to find it, and nothing, and I had a very specific list of criteria. I knew I wanted the most modern engine I could get, modern and reliable at that time, and that was, I think it still is today, a Rotax. Rotax has really perfected the art of making engines, and I knew I wanted that engine. So that's where I started. So I had two criteria: the engine, the high wing design. I wanted modern avionics suite. I flew an Airbus for a long time. That's kind of old technology now, but I knew I wanted a new aircraft. I wanted modern avionics. I wanted performance. I wanted to be able to carry 4 full-size adults and still have enough weight to put gas in. So that was a tall order for a lot of small, light aircraft. And I am an airframe power plant mechanic, so I didn't have to get an experimental to be able to work on my aircraft. In fact, I never thought I got it because I never thought I'd want an experimental, but I got my A&P 30 years ago, more. And back then, experimental aircraft weren't what they are today. So I was searching both the experimental and the certified both. I looked at planes, I test flew them, I had a lot of options, and nothing, everything was a compromise in one way or another. I'd find something that didn't have the engine I wanted or didn't have the performance I wanted, but that was okay. So I had time, so I waited. I discovered Sling Aircraft in 2016 at Sun and Fun. And they had a plane that was really close on a lot of my requirements, except they put the wing on the wrong side of the fuselage. So I waited. And then in early 2019, January to be precise, I heard the rumor that they were coming out with a high wing design. And I knew instantly. A buddy of mine who heard the rumor, who knew what my criteria were, called me instantly. And from that moment on, I was trying to put money in their hands because I knew that it was a quality aircraft, and it was designed by the legend himself, Mike Blythe. Oh, love that man, and he's just a genius. And there's many examples of why that's true. But he was a Rotax dealer first, and he thought, if I build an airplane, maybe I'll sell more engines. So I knew that it had the engine I want, and I knew it was designed to optimize that engine. And the evidence is clear that he's done a tremendous job of designing aircraft, both his Sling 2, which is a two-place experimental or trainer, the TSI, which is a marvelous low-wing four-place aircraft, and now the Sling High Wing. So I knew it was it, so I called them. It took me a while to get them to cash my checks, but finally I did, and that's how I became the first customer for the high wing model. So
Hi, Linda. Did you build your own Sling aircraft?
Actually, yes, I did.
It was an American woman, Linda Sollars.
Of having had the opportunity to build the very first production Sling High Wing. And that is because I had a very solid set of criteria that I've been looking for almost 2 decades, but there was just nothing. If there was a certified plane that met all those, I would have loved it.
The original intent was to build it here in the States by myself, but I got the kit in 2021, and as you may recall, in 2021, shipping was taking forever. COVID had kind of shut the world down. So that didn't seem like a good idea because I was the first to build the plane. I thought, though I have my mechanic's license, I'd never built the plane, so I thought the idea that I might booger something up and mess it up was pretty high. But also, since it was the first of the model, something might not fit quite right, the first production version. So I talked Sling into letting me build it at the factory in South Africa, which was amazing, absolutely amazing experience. So I got to be involved in the formative stages of development. And my plane, frankly, is a bit more prototype than it is production. They've made a tremendous number of refinements since then, but I still love my Zenzi. She's the best. So it was just, it was an honor to be involved in that. You can see my fingerprints around here with some various things that stuck that they made standard that were things that I wanted or commented on. I hadn't flown a small airplane in decades, so I'd just been flying jets. But shortly after I arrived, J.P. Scholes, who has that beautiful tailwheel that's behind us here, came along, and he's a great tailwheel pilot, small aircraft pilot, so he had a lot of insight too, which really, really helped. So it was an amazing experience working with the team at Sling and JP to create this amazing aircraft, I think.
Wow, that's exciting. Can you show me around and tell me what's the special thing about your Sling aircraft?
Well, first of all, showing you around, you can see it's got a huge door here. The fuselage is composite, and the tail feathers and the wings are aluminum. We've got the Midwest panel builders did an amazing job. Talk about customer service. They came all the way out to South Africa. They designed this here in their place here in the States, and then we shipped it across, and then they came over and installed it for me personally, which was wonderful. So I've got a Garmin suite. I have a backlit screen. I put a parachute in it because I do fly at night and I do fly in IFR conditions, so that seemed a wise thing to do. I use handbrake instead of toe brakes. I'm very accustomed to toe brakes, even in the jet, but the handbrake turns out to be a great option for this platform for a whole host of reasons. The seats are extraordinarily comfortable. Well, I'm sure we'll get to it, but longest leg I've done here is 14 and a half hours, and I could have kept going. The seats are amazing. You can see that the seat reclines. That one reclines even a little bit more because my husband's first job when the wheels leave the ground is to go to sleep. So we made the seats recline in part so that he could rest easily, and he has a lovely tall torso. So the headrest goes up and down. One of the things that excites people a lot about this plane is that it has electric seats for the up and down. It's mechanical back and forth, but electric for up and down, which is terrific because I like to sit very high in my seat and bolt upright, frankly, because I have a freakishly short torso. Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's roomy, it's comfortable. There's a lot of room in the back for all kinds of junk, apparently, as well as people. And it's a 4-seat. These seats fold down flat, take this bottom cushion off, and this folds flat, and there's just 2 little cotter pins, and the whole seat comes out. It is a 4-seat, but I have this in here to demonstrate the external fuel tank that I put in for the journey, which I think we'll probably talk about here. So yeah, a tremendous amount of room. And if I didn't say it before, one of the great reasons to have a high wing is ingress and egress. It's very easy for me and my friends that might have new hips or new knees to get in and out. But also you can get your toys in the back, your bicycles, your wheelchairs, whatever it is you want to put in the back. Much easier, in my opinion, in a high wing.
Linda, it's a long journey. How did you handle the fuel?
Longest journey I've done so far has been this trip from South Africa to Oshkosh in 2022. The longest leg was 2,100 nautical miles across the Atlantic, 14 and a half hours with our tailwinds. I carry with my new engine, because when I built the plane I had a 915 because the 916 wasn't out yet. Now I have a 916, hence my N number, 916HW. It used to be 915. I've got about 8 hours of fuel in the wing tanks, and then these tanks in the back each hold about 5 hours of fuel. So we have our electronics. I have fuel pumps. This usually has hoses when it's all hooked up properly, and I have two tanks in the back. Then I feed it to this. You can see on the side over there, I permanently plumbed, when we designed the fuel system, we permanently plumbed it for ferry tanks. So there's a hose over here that is the feed. The other side is the return. This plane has gravity feed with a header tank that then feeds the fuel to the engine. So so we hook up the tanks. We have two pumps in parallel for redundancy. Never needed the second pump, I might add. So we feed it through. So we start off on the wing tanks. Then when we're at cruise, flip over to the tanks and the ferry tanks in the back, turn off the wing tanks, use that fuel, and then we can turn the wing tanks back on for landing.
Why you have this journey? Why you flew all the way from South Africa to Oshkosh?
Thank you for that. So this is great. It's a great story. So when I finished building the plane, after about 9 months of going back and forth over to the factory to build it with their expert help and oversight, I had to get it home. And of course, back then, shipping was taking a long time, air freight was expensive. And you know what? I built this at the Sling factory, and Sling has a long pedigree of flying new aircraft on grand adventures around the world. In fact, I'd like to invite over the co-CEOs of Sling Aircraft, James and Andrew Pittman. And so it made complete sense. They had intended to fly the prototype the year prior, but because of various restrictions in COVID and timing and 2 weeks here and 2 weeks there, it just wasn't practical. So we decided to go en masse with my plane, their first prototype, SHW, the nose wheel, and that beautiful tail wheel I mentioned before, JP's tail wheel, and that we would come to Oshkosh as a flight of 3. So I'm going to turn it over to you now, James. You can talk a little bit about our journey.
So we are the factory in South Africa that developed these airplanes. And just for a little bit of the backstory, Linda is an early adopter. You know, she does everything first, faster, quicker, more bravely than the next. And she wanted this airplane. And we were just kind of getting into production. In fact, I'd say it was just before we were ready to get into production. So she paid quite a high price. And she built this airplane from one of our kits in Johannesburg, South Africa, because we actually weren't ready to send kits to the States yet, you know. Mm-hmm. And she paid quite a heavy price as an early adopter in this particular case, because she really became part of the kind of development process in the airplane as well. So we were testing stuff out, actually, I would say. I mean, it's the real kind of experimental spirit in aircraft, yeah.
It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I got to do things on mine that the normal home builder wouldn't get to do with respect to the composite work, bucking some rivets on the spar, as well as see the sausage, you know, see how everything was being done and made and have input. So it was wonderful.
So it was lucky for us to have this kind of person as our kind of origin customer. And then, of course, JP as well, the two of them.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're a business. So we wanted to get some of these aircraft to the States to show the world. And I mean, on the one hand, it feels like the obvious way to get an airplane anywhere is to fly it there. But we had real tight time constraints. And we did not have time to get the airplane approved on the American register in South Africa, knock it down, put it in a container, and ship it to America. So we decided to fly them as a flight of 3. And, you know, it was one hell of an adventure.
It was
wasn't it? Yeah.
amazing. We had a great time.
Did you come that year to Oshkosh or not?
No, I didn't come to Oshkosh. I was part of the ground support that was helping get you guys through storms on the way to Oshkosh. It was wonderful to have Linda, such an enthusiastic person, being part of, exactly as James says, the kind of the early build, the prototyping, and look what a beautiful airplane it's turned out to be.
One of the things that I feel about this air show more than any other in the world is that it captures the spirit of kind of innovation, private initiative. And so, I once before arrived in a prototype airplane. I mean, essentially, this is the kit build prototype. You were the first builder on Earth.
The launch customer, as Linda insisted on being.
And, what happens in the world is that more money is thrown at problems, more technology. But it's quite wonderful to arrive at Oshkosh in a prototype airplane, having built it yourself, and you kind of received with open arms because it represents, I think, the spirit that this show really stands for.
I would agree.
It's the human spirit in aviation.
And I know I've said it 1,000 times, but I so appreciate you guys putting up with me there for so long, occupying your space,
Putting
working
up
with
with
your
you.
farce.
It wasn't like that at all. She's part of our family now.
Yeah, I watched the JP's documentary. Can you guys tell me about your journey a little bit?
Fly 3 high wings in formation from Johannesburg to Oshkosh. One of the kind of features of our business, and it's just turned out that way, partly because we're so far away from America, is that we prove the aeroplanes to ourselves by doing, these long flights. And this was like a perfect test for an aeroplane that had only flown, I think, about 8 days before we left America. So we had to take off here in Johannesburg, South Africa, fly all the way up here to Wisconsin with 8 days on the aircraft. So, I mean, that really is as much a test of human spirit, I suppose, as it is of the aircraft. And a feature of it is that you're going to be flying massive distances over water. So you do start asking yourself some questions about whether you got all the bolts and nuts tight, whether the fuel system has as much integrity as it ought to have, and so on. We chose, because we were under time pressure, in fact, we eventually only arrived, I think, on the Thursday of that Oshkosh week. And we ran into quite a bunch of problems along the way, which are really actually all part of the adventure. And I'm pleased to report that almost none of the problems were aircraft problems. They were kind of bureaucratic problems mostly. So permissions to fly a brand new non-certified aircraft through all of these countries. We had to wait 2 days to get fuel in Accra in Ghana, to run over the route. Johannesburg, Rwanda, capital of Angola. And that was about a 12-hour flight.
A little less, but yeah.
A little bit less.
Oh, I think that was 10, that one.
Angola, all over the ocean, to Accra in Ghana, then around through some pretty awful weather. In fact, this is one of the few legs where we didn't fly in close formation. We split up. And the reason why we split up represented, or demonstrated quite nicely, different attitudes to risk in the group of 3. There was a big storm just over here off the coast of West Africa, and me and my partner flew straight through it, and JP Shaw's diverted about 30 miles to the west, and Linda, playing it safe, was about 50 miles west of us.
Yeah, right.
So we all met up again at Capo Verde. And then this leg over here was a really interesting one, because it's another of those legs which we've done over the years, where in order to make it, we actually required a bit of a tailwind. With 0 wind, the fuel was marginal, and with a headwind, we would have landed somewhere short in the ocean over here, short of the Barbados, Bridgetown. So it was a great relief to be on the ground over there. Then up through the Bahamas, and I mean, really, although there was a lot of bureaucracy along the way, I mean, it kind of demonstrates the classic element of aviation, which is that the aeroplane only flies when the paperwork exceeds the weight of the aircraft. But we were really received, I thought, like with open arms.
Yes.
Because it's the human spirit in aviation, not just money, technology, and the kind of modern term, I had the opportunity last year after Oshkosh, so a year after we did the journey, to fly with Linda back to her home in Florida, which is at Spruce Creek. And just after the show, I've got the honor and privilege of flying with Linda from Osh to our distributor in Los Angeles, which we've got
This
7
year
days
we
to
have.
do.
Yeah.
Torrance.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of similarities actually between South Africa and the USA. We're both kind of new world frontier nations, lots of magnificent rural areas.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a little journey where we try to fit in, for my benefit, because I don't really know the States that well, as many of the magnificent geographic features as we have in this country into this kind of like 7-day packed adventure. And there is no way better to do that, I don't think, than flying in a high wing Sling 4.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. I agree completely. And what I'd like to add is that I've had the great honor of doing a number of adventures with you guys, both in this plane and in your airplanes over in Africa. And when they fly the planes, it's not just for clickbait and for promotion. They really live the plane. When we land somewhere, put the meat on the braai, get ourselves something to drink, and sit down and talk about what worked, what didn't work, how can we improve this, how can we... They live the plane. And that's why I think all the planes are as special as they are, is because you guys really put effort into thinking about what works best.
And Linda, you're becoming a bit of a South African. That word braai is a barbecue in the States. And I think the attitude of South Africans is quite similar, that kind of frontier can-do attitude to Americans.
We'll make a plan. We'll make a plan.
We'll
That's
make a
what I
plan.
heard. We'll make a plan.
Farmer makes a plan in South Africa, yeah. So I hope to see at an absolute minimum in the 7 days from Sunday, Mount Rushmore, Yellowstone National Park, Needles Park, Monument Valley. I want to see Yosemite, because I've climbed the nose of El Capitan twice in my life.
Yeah.
Got to see it from the air.
Canyon.
The Great Salt Lake,
Yeah. Grand Canyon.
the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Never set eyes on that before. So it's going to be one hell of an adventure.
So follow, like, and subscribe.
It's Linda's movie. And what I actually was angling towards is that her attitude to flying has kind of changed somewhat. I know the aeroplanes well, and I feel like I'm a reasonably decent stick and rudder pilot. I'm not nearly as good as the rules as Linda is. In America, it's easy to fly in, but there are a lot of aircraft, a lot of airspaces. I'm going to learn that from Linda. And she's, I'm going to kind of monitor the extent to which she's shifted her psychology from airline pilot to adventure pilot.
Yeah, it's. I started flying this. I considered myself a 14,000-hour student pilot, and it really holds because it's a very different experience.
Kind of flying, yeah.
Yeah, and flying VFR. I mean, I last time I flew much VFR, it was Tursas and Ursas, not Class A, B, and C. So I had an ADF and a Loran, and I used them. Yeah, so lots have changed. So it's been a wonderful learning experience for me too. Even though I have a lot of experience, I still consider myself a student in this world.
And Linda, you fly this IF, don't you? You'll fly an IF flight plan.
Yeah. I will demonstrate it.
Yes, on the way. I mean, I've got an IF rating. I've had it since 2009, so 16 years, and I've filed 4 IF flight plans in 16 years. And I do it because the rules require it in a certain context. But I just kind of get around VFR. So I'm going to be learning some stuff as well, I can tell you, along the way.
The founders of the Sling Aircraft are famous for their cross-country adventures flight. I remember I started watching their trike documentary, South to South. It's amazing. It brings so much joy to us. And then you guys designed the Sling Aircraft and fly the Sling Aircraft all over the world. Can you tell me about how Sling Aircraft, the achievements in the adventures?
the adventures help a lot of people discover sling and entertain, and as you beautifully put, bring joy to it. It also is part of the development, I think. Would that be correct in saying that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the features of our business is that the founders and almost all of our senior employees are ourselves pilots. We use our airplanes, fly with them, our families in them, travel in them. And so, unlike a lot of aircraft development businesses, the owners actually use the aircraft and are pilots. It means that we can design for our own needs. The real founder of this business actually said he's not here today. His name is Mike Blythe. He was the world microlight piloting champion in his relative youth. And he sort of pioneered, actually, I would say, long distance trike flying in the world. So he flew from the southern tip of Africa to North Cape, northern tip of Scandinavia. And some years later, he flew from South America to South Africa in a trike. So obviously you can't cross the Atlantic Ocean in a trike. So if you ride up to South America, Central America, across North America, Greenland, Iceland, across to England, Europe, and down here. So he had a little bit of that under his belt. You know, when you start a business, you never know where you're going to end up. You know, you take the first step. You want to design a beautiful aeroplane. You want to sell it to the world. And then you find you've got to deliver the first one to America in order to show the world. So in 2009, we flew what we called our production prototype airplane, serial number 2, from Johannesburg to Oshkosh here over a 9-day period. And then, partly because we love adventure, and partly because the wind blows from east to west in the tropics, we flew back to South Africa around the world. And out of that journey, the aircraft proved itself substantially to us. And I think the aircraft proved itself to the world as well. You know? And so we sold a bunch of airplanes on the back of that journey. People were impressed with it. We made a lovely film. A close friend of mine made a film about our 40-day and often flying at night journey around the world. And it became a kind of an unintended marketing tool, I suppose, for our business. And so we've got into making films, which are mostly just about us having fun, but they do demonstrate incidentally the kind of capabilities of these airplanes. And everybody knows that there's been a turn in the world in the last, I'd say, 15 years to telling stories in moving image, you know, because social media has kind of taken over. So not only do we get to have the fun of kind of having wonderful flying adventures, we also get to market our product. And so people like Linda
What a great.
are perfect customers. You know, by the time we flew 3 years ago to America in these 3 beautiful high wings, we had in fact flown ourselves or had customers fly our aircraft 3 times around the earth. And those kind of trips, partly because it's more convenient to do fewer, longer legs, also because the technology developed. You know, we got better engines, more fuel efficient, fuel injected. So the earlier journeys, we tended to do shorter legs. And then in 2011, we flew our prototype 4-seater around the world and did a trip of, I think, 6,000 kilometers, about 3,800 nautical miles from Rio de Janeiro to Cape Town. So these actually wonderful long legs over the ocean. When we did the journey in 2022 to Oshkosh, it was the first time we were able to fly 3 airplanes together, like across oceans, which was great.
So much fun, and the footage we were able to get, the views, the banter on the radio, it was just an amazing experience. I'd never really had an adventure like that, but I really would love to do it again with more airplanes. And nobody ever told me how fun formation flying was.
Yeah.
I've never done that before. So
I mean, it is a really special moment you have in your life when you have no communication with the outside world because our HF radio wasn't working. You're out over the mid-Atlantic, but you can see your friends. You know, they're 10 meters off the right wing and 10 meters off the left wing, and you're talking to each other, telling stories, you know,
he was
living your
playing
life.
music that nobody wanted to hear.
My taste in music is impeccable. And of course, dealing with technical challenges.
Yeah.
And in different aeroplanes, you can't stop and
Yeah, it's not like we
get help from each other, but you can give each other advice.
Yep. Yeah, and we did. It was comforting to have each other around just in case anything went wrong. There's always a risk. Don't do this at home, kids. There's a calculated risk. You think about the probability though, and the severity. The severity was high, but the probability was quite low.
Quite low because the aeroplanes were well built, well inspected, ready for the flight.
Yeah. People often accuse me of being brave to cross the Atlantic in a single-engine aircraft, and I like to say that courage is when you're frightened to do something and you do it anyway. Well, I wasn't frightened. Maybe I should have been, but I wasn't. So I don't see that as a particularly brave adventure. A wonderful adventure, a learning experience, a great time, but
the making of very great memories.
Yeah.
I mean, in the modern world, there just generally isn't that much risk.
Well, an adventure is where it's at. I'm all about adventure. You know that about me. An adventure provides us the opportunity to grow. It stretches us. James would famously say when things would go sideways, it wouldn't be an adventure if we knew what the outcome was. But you've got to have a passion for what you're doing, and you've got to be willing to accept feedback and to learn and to grow, and to be able to do that with people that you respect and care about. It's just been an incredible bit. I think we're all friends for life now as a result of it. Yeah.
Hi, Linda. I've heard a lot of good things about Sling Pilot Training Academy. Can you tell me about it?
Well, you heard right, Airflow. It is an amazing organization, is the Sling Pilot Academy, and it's so amazing. They fly like 5,000 hours a month, and these wonderful trainers, the Sling 2. You can get this as an LSA today and or build it, but they use it as trainers. It's a great modern trainer. So incredible. They fly them like 5,000 hours a month. So much so that I'm a mechanic, and I'm IRMT certified to work on my engines, independent Rotax engine mechanic. But it doesn't break, so I don't get a chance. I can service it, but if it's not, I want to maintain it. I want to do more service and more maintenance on it. So as a result, because they fly these planes so much, and they're building high wings, and they're working on high wings, I'm actually, after the show, going out to LA to spend the fall, spend a few months wrenching on the floor. I'm so excited. I can't wait to do it. But when it comes to talking about the Academy, I want to invite over Evan, one of the instructors, to tell you more, because he knows a lot more about how that operates. Take it away, Evan.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Sling Pilot Academy is main locations out of Torrance, California. 0 to commercial program in 9 months. And if you wanted to continue on after that, we do have CFI and II programs. It's been really, truly an awesome opportunity for me. I've looked at plenty of other flight schools, but the one thing that sold me on Sling Pilot Academy is the community that they have, that you've heard from the main factory with South Africa and everything like that. The family community that is involved with the school and with everything, top to bottom, it's truly such an amazing thing. And these airplanes are truly amazing as well, light sport aircraft. They are super durable and really easily maintained, like Linda said. They are a lot of fun. They're stick and rudder, super responsive. Rotax 912 IS engines, so very reliable. The fuel burn is 3.7 gallons per hour, so we do save a lot of money on fuel, which helps alleviate costs for our students. It is truly an amazing program, and I've had an amazing time start to finish.
So, Linda, how will the new light sport Mosaic rules affect Sling Aircraft?
Great question, Flo, and thanks for asking. In fact, I have the great honor of representing Sling on the ASTM F-37 committee, which is the group that is writing the actual standards. So Mosaic is a ruling that the FAA is putting out, and ASTM is the group that's helping to coordinate and develop the consensus standards among industry, governments, academia, etc. So I'm having a great time, and it was a huge announcement just the other day, and we met all day yesterday about the new stall speeds, the increase in stall speeds, the elimination of any weight, new privileges for the sport pilot. So there's a lot to know about that. When it comes to Sling Aircraft, the aircraft themselves, I'd love to invite Jean D'Assonville. He's one of the 3 EOs, as we like to call him, of Sling Aircraft. We have Jean, Matt Buknowski, and Wayne Totten. And if I could get you guys to come over here and say hello. And this is Airflow. I'd like you to. She's asking about Mosaic and the impact that's going to have on Sling.
Hello, my name is Matt from Sling. Yeah, we are super excited about Mosaic. What we love about Mosaic the most is that it is a continuation of the FAA saying yes instead of no. If you can dream it and make it a reality, you can fly it. But for us at Sling, it's really significant because we have 2 amazing 4-seat airplanes that we sell now as experimental kit-built airplanes. And we have several build-assist centers around the United States turning out the most magnificent 4-place, modern, FADEC, ballistic parachute, fuel-injected, oxygenated airplanes. And we will, under Mosaic, we will now be able to deliver these as factory-built airplanes. Of course, we love experimentals. We love the creativity and the innovation that comes out of the experimental world. We intend to still be heavily in the experimental home-built world. We sell flat-pack kits as well. We'll continue to do that. We'll continue to do build-assist airplanes. But we will have an option out there in a ready-to-fly airplane with most of the same attributes and features that you find in some of the most popular type certificated general aviations available today.
Yep. I'd just like to add, too, that the Mosaic came around in a response to being able to modernize the fleet, make it more affordable and accessible and safer. And that's just so exciting because we're just moving in the right direction. And we're very, very grateful. There's a lot of hard work on the part of the FAA to get this together and ahead of schedule, I might point out. And now our work really begins with the ASTM. We got 267 days to get the standards written to get back to the FAA for them to approve. So we're really excited. This is history in the making.
It really is. And on the flight training side, we at Sling Pilot Academy are operating a pretty large fleet of almost 70 light sport aircraft for flight training. And what a lot of people to this day don't understand is that you can get your private pilot certificate, your instrument rating, your commercial certificate, your CFI, CFII, all in a light sport aircraft. And more than that, our light sport aircraft have modern avionics. They're more similar to what our graduates will experience when they enter a job in the regional airlines flying an Embraer or similar. And we have been doing all of this with light sport aircraft. Under Mosaic, the size and the capabilities of these aircraft will expand. And for example, in our flight school, we'll be able to put a ballistic parachute in every single flight training airplane, which we don't do today because it chews into our useful load. And so we are super excited about the increases in safety we'll achieve while offering students a next generation experience, learning to fly in a safer next generation airplane.
I might add that the avionics in these aircraft, even the trainers, is actually more sophisticated than what I was flying in the Airbus. So it's really very capable.